I know. That's nothing. It starts again like that. Yeah. You just you think. Say you think.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm so honored to be involved in this project, and I'm so honored to welcome all of you here today so that you can learn more about Unify Akron's plans to stand up a deliberative citizens assembly here in Akron. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cherie Strachan. I'm the director of a local institute here at the University of Akron called the Bliss Institute of Applied Politics. But more importantly for this venue, I've been on the kitchen table, sort of the advisory board for this project from the very beginning, and I'm now on the accountability team. And I was asked to be involved because when I came to the University of Akron almost 4 years ago, I argued that applied politics has to extend to good citizenship. We are at an era of polarization. We are at an era of democratic backsliding, and you can't think about applied politics and running for office and holding elections if we don't have an engaged and active citizenry. It's so important. And what I teach my students is, they say, well, how do we do that? What does that look like? How do we get a robust, healthy electorate back? And I say it has to be deliberative. We learn the skills, like we practice democracy. We don't just go vote in an election. It has to be something that we live. It has to be deliberative. And we have to rebuild a deliberative public sphere and the civic infrastructure that's so eroded. But this time it has to be inclusive. This time it can't be segregated, and it has to work for everyone, because that's why it fell apart in the first place. And so when my students say, well, what does that look like? Where can I go? How does, where do I participate in that? I would tell them you have to envision it and you have to build it, because I didn't have any examples that were really robust to show them. And now I can say, look at what we did in Akron. Like, here's an example, here's a way to be involved. And that's why I'm so excited. I see someone doing it right. I see something that I can hold up as a shining example for my colleagues across the country and for my students. And I know that we're gonna do good things for the city of Akron and Summit County. And then my really only role, other than to say how excited I am, and I'm happy to talk more about that later, is to introduce Zach Cole.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zach Cole, Executive Director of the Well Community Development Corporation in the Middlebury neighborhood of Akron. I've been a part of the kitchen table. I think it's been 12 to 18 months or so, where we've been having conversations about what Citizens Assembly what deliberative process means and what that looks like in our community. And part of the conversation that we've been having over the last year or so is, so what's a topic that makes sense for our community that we can really wrap our arms around and start to have a process around how we want to provide solutions and how we want to think about solutions. We've had hundreds of conversations that have ranged anywhere from youth violence to food insecurity to housing to neighborhood economies. And really what we landed on was, let's start this process and think about something that is an issue for people all over the country, and how do we think about localized solutions? And we've really landed on the idea of housing. How do we think about healthy, quality, long-term housing for our community? This huge national issue that people all over our country are talking about. But I am a huge believer that big national issues and huge topics need local place-based solutions. And I think part of our responsibility and what we're trying to do with this whole Unify Akron process is, how do we come to a place where we have these huge, like lightning rod issues? How do we come to the table and create local place-based solutions? Housing is something that we have conversations about, everything from homelessness to housing insecurity to not having enough housing to a supply and demand issue to inaccessibility and affordability. But housing is really a building block of one, personal health and someone's individual ability to thrive, but also neighborhood stability. Neighborhoods being the building block in the fabric of our city and how our city thrives. So I'm really excited about the Unify process. I'm really excited about the opportunity to dive into finding place-based solutions. What things might make sense in Chicago or San Francisco or Miami or Minneapolis or Dayton or other places. But what I'm really excited about is what works for Akron. How do we think about the right solutions for our place in this moment in 2026? So encouraged and excited about this process, being able to create a system that makes sense for us, that makes sense for our community, and that really comes from a holistic community approach that says, this is Akron's solution to this big, hairy problem. With that, I think I'm inviting up Morgan.
Well, good morning, everyone. So honored to be here today among many, many people who have worked to make this possible, and also many, many more who are not in the room who've made this possible too. So first, I want you to imagine an Akron where residents across all neighborhoods and backgrounds are invited to a table to solve problems together. That's the vision of Unify Akron. And this group is hosting something called a Civic Assembly. And I want to give you a little bit of background today about what's actually going to be happening and how you can get involved, because this is not a thing that is happening from an outside perspective. This is being led and run by Akronites. So a Civic Assembly, it really has three components. It's about people, it's about process, and it's about power. Civic assemblies have been used across the globe to change policy, to increase trust between neighbors, between governments, even to change constitutions. One of my favorite examples comes from Ireland, where they've changed their constitution twice using a really similar tool that Akron is going to be employing. So back to the people, process, and power. The people. In a civic assembly, this is not a group of people who happen to be free on a Monday night and can come and speak at a microphone for 3 minutes. This is a randomly selected but representative group of residents. These are folks who usually might not get a microphone or a seat at a table. So in the next several weeks, we've got a fantastic outreach team. Many folks are in this room, are going to be knocking on doors and sending postcards and showing up at your libraries to invite you to put your name in the lottery. We're going to randomly select 65 people who live in Akron. That's the only expertise you need. You're an Akronite. You live in Akron, and you're an adult, I should say. That lottery, though, it's a really cool math algorithm that also helps us be sure that those 65 people actually look like Akron. That those are people that the demographics, that table is going to be a mini Akron. Those people are also supported. They get a stipend of $1,000 for their participation. They get access to a civic concierge, Dreama Whitfield, and a team of volunteers to make sure that they have the transportation to get there, the family care that they might need, and anything that would make their participation actually possible. So that's the people. The next is the process. This is a big process. These folks are going to meet from March 14th to May 14th, once a week. And over that time, they're going to deeply study what's already happened in housing. This is not a new topic for Akron to talk about. We have so many reports. We have so many organizations doing the hard work and community organizing around this issue. This is standing on top of that work and actually empowering that work towards impact and towards action. This process is also run by 9 different teams. You'll meet some of those representatives today, and all those teams are led by local Akron folks, except for one, a third-party evaluation team who is going to be making sure that we are living up to the global standards of civic assemblies across the world. And the final part is power. This is not a report that sits on a shelf and collects dust. This is about action. One of the 9 teams is called the Impact Team. They're going to be stewarding these recommendations from that randomly selected representative group of Akronites, stewarding them forward into action in partnership with government. There's one other point I'd like to make, and that is this is a learning lab. As you heard Zach say, we started having conversations in Akron about, 12, 18 months ago. We've had about 300 individual listening sessions to really understand, is this something Akron actually wants? Is housing a topic that we actually all care about and want to move the needle forward with? And those listening sessions, the advisory teams, your voices have already really changed how this process is going to look. And you're going to continue to change how the process looks. So you are invited to a seat at this table if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to get involved. We've got hundreds of folks, contractors, volunteers, team members to really make this yours. We don't have the answers already. Akron is inventing them together and is going to serve as a national model across the country for many other cities who want to show up and do public problem solving differently. And with that, I'm really excited to turn it over to 2 government officials and elected leaders who have really helped to make this possible in Akron. I'm skipping. Rewind. I'm also really excited for y'all to meet those folks. They're great. But first, Dominique Waters, absolutely. We just are incredibly grateful to have him on the team. He's one of the leaders of our outreach team and is going to help tell you a little bit more about how we're going to really be sure everybody feels invited to this very big table of Akron. Dom.
I just love Morgan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dominique Waters, and I have the honor of serving on the Unified Akron Outreach Team. In my day-to-day life, I'm also the founder of a nonprofit that works with young people. And I see up close how housing shows up in their lives. If a person doesn't know where they're sleeping that night, if they have to move 3 times in a school year, if home doesn't feel safe or stable, it affects everything. How they show up to school, how they show up to programming, how they show up in the world. So when we talk about housing, we're not just talking about buildings. We're talking about the conditions that shape whether people can actually thrive here in Akron. As Zach said earlier, housing touches every facet of our community. It affects youth, elders, families, businesses, downtown, neighborhoods, employers, everyone. And I want to be clear, we're not just creating another idea in Akron. This is not a one-time event. This is a movement to change how we make decisions and who gets to be at the table when those decisions are made. Our outreach strategy is simple, but it's bold. We're on a mission to reach those unlikely voices, the people who usually don't get invited into rooms like this. We invite them in. If you're an Akron resident who is struggling with housing, bad conditions, unstable rent, evictions, overcrowding, you are an expert. Your lived experience is data. Your stories matters as much as any report. Like Morgan mentioned, to make this possible, we're removing some barriers. Delegates will receive $1,000 stipend for their time. We're going to help with transportation, and we're going to assist with childcare. We want to reach every zip code here in Akron, every background, every lived experience. That diversity is not just nice to have, it is the key to our success. So here's the call to action. When you see information about the Civic Lottery, don't scroll past it. Don't overlook it. Don't assume it's for someone else. Put your name in the hat. Volunteer to help spread the word. Share your ideas with your neighbors, your networks, and your community. If you live in Akron, housing touches your life. If you live in Akron, this process is for you. I'm so grateful that the city leadership is committed to partnering in this work. The City of Akron and City Council have signed on to formally receive and respond to the Assembly's recommendations. And that's an important step to true accountability. And with that, I have the honor of introducing someone that's critical to this movement, our incomparable mayor, Shammas Malik.
Good morning. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Now I have to follow Dom, but that's good because he brought the energy. So we are so thrilled to be here today to really kick off this flagship opportunity for Unify across the country right here in Akron. And we know in Akron, we can do difficult, hard things. I talk a lot about, borrowing David Giffel's term, the hard way and purpose. Right? We are standing here in this old rubber industry era building that has been transformed into this small business incubator. Right? We are a city that just announced last month that with decades of work from our water and sewer department, we were able to remove all of our lead water lines in the city of Akron. Right? We are a city that persisted over the last few years with an idea of a right to counsel program that would help folks facing eviction. And it took a couple of years because it was initially birthed during COVID. We finally started a 3-year pilot program, City of Akron, working with Akron City Council, working with Community Legal Aid, working with United Way, working with our court system, all 3 branches of government. We started that this fall. But we know, particularly with housing, there's a lot more work to do. Across our city, we see the challenges. We see the challenges in people's day-to-day experiences. We see the challenges when it comes to pricing and cost, the amount of someone's income each month that goes towards housing, and the choices, the hard choices then that people have to make. City has an important role, right? We regulate housing conditions, we enforce those regulations, but we also help set policy when it comes to how housing is developed throughout Akron. So as part of this, I want to really emphasize that it's not important just what we do, but how we do it, right? And so that's why, to me, Unify was such an exciting thing to be a part of, right? Because from the beginning, we've tried to make engagement a central part of everything we do in our administration. We've tried to make sure that whether it's more simple topics or some of the most weighty topics we discuss as a community, that we are engaging with people, that we are having difficult conversations, that we are doing that hard way on purpose, because we think that will result in better outcomes. Because frankly, we all have to do it together. We all have to unify. So with that being said, there's a structure that has to come into place for it. There are commitments that have to be made for it. We have to be willing to engage and willing to have dialogue. So our wonderful teams have put together a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, under which the city of Akron will make certain commitments. For example, by the fall of 2026, we will respond either accepting, partially accepting, or rejecting each assembly recommendation at the fall 2026 event. And we will also provide public updates and written progress reports on housing in Akron, no less than every 6 months for 24 months following the city's first progress update on the implementation of recommendations. I don't always get to read legal language in these press conferences, so that's fun. But today, right now, Morgan and I are going to sign this on behalf of the city of Akron, on behalf of Unify, in order to put those commitments into writing. There we go. So we have the legal end of it done, but we know that no one branch of government can do this by themselves, right? And it is absolutely critical that our administration, on housing, on everything else, but particularly on housing, that we work with our legislative branch, because fundamentally, a lot of what housing requirements are and the whole process, the penalties, the expectations, how we hold people accountable gets set down in city code. And so working with our city council is going to be absolutely critical during this process. We're really excited to work with our partner and someone who we're going to bring up to the stage right now, our city council president, Margo Sommerville.
Good morning. And welcome. I just want to take an opportunity to acknowledge Councilperson Fran Wilson, Ward 1. Thank you so much for being here. It is truly exciting to be here and share in this exciting news of what's happening in our city with Unified Akron. This unique problem-solving civic innovation initiative marks an important moment for all of us here in Akron. One where we're not just talking about challenges, but we're working together to solve them in a collaborative, creative, and a meaningful way. I'm especially inspired by what it means for our residents, because Unified Akron is about engaging our community from the very beginning of the problem-solving process, not as an afterthought. When residents' voices, experiences, and ideas are a part of shaping solutions from the start, we get outcomes that are stronger, more equitable, and more sustainable. This initiative is coming to Akron at exactly the right time. We are a city with so much promise, a city where great things are happening every single day. But we also know that there are still important work to be done in areas that directly impact health, safety, and the well-being of our residents here in Akron. Unified Akron has the potential to revolutionize how we approach that work, how we listen, how we collaborate, and how we build a better Akron for everyone. So as a legislative body of Akron City Council, as a legislative body of the city of Akron, Akron City Council is eager to consider a resolution that not only acknowledges the MOU entered into with the city that we just saw signed here today, but we want to also commit that Akron City Council will cooperate within its legislative authority and the establishment of a complementary framework of cooperation between Akron City Council and Unified Akron. This framework will reflect our shared commitments to collaboration, accountability, and a meaningful action. Akron City Council stands ready to support Unified Akron, and it strengthens a unity here in Akron, building trust, fostering lasting, positive impacts across our community. Thank you. And then next, I have the honor of bringing up a member of the accountability team, Reverend Robert DeJournette.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. This is really exciting. As part of the accountability team, I believe we all share the vision that we should all want to hold ourselves accountable to the roles and positions that we hold, whether it's elected, whether it's a paid position. We all want to hold ourselves accountable. And we believe that people deserve to see how their time and their voice will lead to action. And I do want to applaud our city leadership because it is outstanding that they have made this commitment. I want to thank you, Mayor Malik, for signing the MOU today. I want to really make sure his signature was on there. As this was really, really for me a pivotal thing that there is a signed agreement. And also thank you, President Sommerville, for agreeing to sign something similar. That's huge. That they're putting their reputations on the line and wanting to be accountable, so they're going to sign off on this thing, and it's just a wonderful thing. It really shows it's a good sign that the partnership between our residents in Akron and their government will be even stronger with this level of solidarity, because we know there's power in unity. There's no mistake that it's called unify. We know that there's a lot of impact when we come together and work on the things that we agree upon versus the things we do not agree upon. And public accountability is really, really key. It speaks powerfully to the process that I believe this process is poised to produce some real outcomes. I wouldn't be involved if I didn't think it would be. And in order to gain and keep the trust of the community and the continued need for transparency, follow through, and public accountability is essential so that we know that the community's recommendations, they won't just sit on a shelf. I mean, there's many in our community that have been on countless number of committees and puts their hard-earned time together, and some have not seen the outcomes of that effort. But I believe this is going to be different. The difference this time is a couple of things for me is that there's a lot of intentionality around an inclusive outreach approach to ensure that every part of the community has an opportunity to participate. And I think that's going to speak volumes. And those who want to participate, they can. And it's not going to be just those who are always in the know or those who are always at the same tables. It'll be different people this time. And also the difference is that the mayor made a public declaration by signing that MOU. And council president is doing something similar. And I know their reputations mean something to them. And they wouldn't do this if they were not going to follow through. So I applaud them on that. And I just want to read just a part of the MOU that really stuck out with me, and is that it talks about this partnership seeks to renew the promise at heart of the self-government that the well-informed wisdom and goodwill of the people met by government willing to listen, engage, and act will lead to enduring progress, a better Akron, and more perfect union. The willingness to listen. I believe that our government, our leadership has always been willing to listen and engage. But the proof is going to be in the pudding on how they act. And just like the old adage says, that action speaks louder than words. And we are looking for action, and we are really excited about being part of this accountability team and the whole effort. Next, I think Morgan is coming up to have some closing remarks.
Just a few quick notes to wrap us up. If you would like to apply for the lottery, that is now live at unifyakron.org. There's also a whole bunch of information there that you can find, a bunch of events for you to get more information. But maybe the most important part is your ideas. We've talked a lot about this assembly that's forming, but it doesn't matter if they don't have any ideas to review. So if you have ideas of how you think we could shape and update Akron's housing market, please share those ideas. And those ideas do not get lost on a Post-it note. We mentioned a bunch of the different teams that are forming. A research team and a solutions team is going to be stewarding those ideas along, combining them together, organizing them together so they can all be presented to the assembly in March. So I welcome everyone to get involved. Please visit us online, in Bounce, the events you'll see popping up in your neighborhoods across Akron over the next few months. I would also, as a final note, like to invite all the speakers up so we could take some pictures together. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's, thank you very much, Sue, and thank you for the quick applause hold. For any questions that members of the media might have, we all will be available after the quick photo up here if you'd like to ask anybody any questions. We've also got a phone number, email address on the website that are monitored all the time, so we can answer your questions there as well. So thanks again. Thanks to everyone.
How are you doing? Oh, plug it along. Yes. I have a bunch of unanswered emails over the break. So,
I think it's all yours.
Oh, so excited. So happy to see you.
Another time, baby.
That's so
So
That would be awesome.
good.